She used to run around. She used to try to hide and stuff. She used to have energy, and this was I'm 2 years old.
Cats are like that.
I'm
Dogs are the ones with the energy. Cats are just
So, one of the biggest questions that came up yesterday was, why are men given all the credit in Torah and women are just not spoken about? Like it's all about men and it's not about women. So that's the one we're going to address today. What? Okay, so that's the one we're going to systematically go through today, because as a knowledgeable Jew and Jewess, it's just the foundation, literally just the basics of knowing what's written in the actual Torah. But before we do that and go through many instances where, when it comes to the most important things in Judaism, when it comes to the people, as we said yesterday, when it comes to life, when it comes to preserving the nation of Israel, the Torah outright attributes it to the woman who made it happen. I do want to also give a voice to the part of us that knows that there does seem to be an imbalance in the world today. So even if the entire Torah gives so much credit to Jewish women throughout the entire Torah, there's still a part of us that goes home and thinks, but 1 second, even with all this that's written, I know there's something about women being less than. So just to address that really briefly, and we will return to it at greater length, but that's not your imagination. The women are compared to the moon, and femininity is compared to the moon, and masculinity and men are compared to the sun. When it comes to the relationship between God and the Jewish people, so God is like the male, and the Jewish women are the Jewish women are compared to the bride, the beloved, the female, the wife. So there does seem to be a huge imbalance. The sun shines way brighter, and the moon does not shine at all. It just takes the light of the sun and reflects it to the world. Reflects it, to the world. A lot, and there are a lot of similarities between women, the Jewish nation, and the moon, in that the moon shines at night. The moon shines when it's really, really dark. And the sun, it does a job during the daylight. The moon lights up the darkness. So when it's dark, right, when it's light, you can see by the light of the sun. When it's dark, when things are difficult, when things are painful, when there's a disadvantage, what brings the light to the world at that point? Like to give people strength and guidance and being able to see at night during darkness. That's the moon. So when you think about both women and the Jewish people, during the time of darkness, the advantage, the strength of women, the strength of the Jewish people is not what everyone sees. It's not obvious. It's not out there. When you say, oh, give me an example of light, no one goes, the moon as the first thing, right? You give an example of light, you say the sun. Flashlight. So it is true that when things are dark, when the world is dark, the Jewish nation, it's not the one that people point to and say, oh, that's the strong nation. We've been persecuted. It's been really, really difficult. And like the moon, even in its full brightness, the light does not shine as bright as the sun, but even then, it doesn't even have its own consistent brightness. The moon waxes and wanes. It has more difficult times that it's brighter, times that it's less bright. And that is true of the Jewish nation and of women. So if that's something that you feel, don't get discouraged, because there is a foundational truth to that. And yet, to recognize that, first of all, it is a temporary state, because when Mashiach comes, the light of the moon will be restored and it will shine as brightly as the sun. And yet, there's an even more important task that the moon does in the time of darkness, because that's when light is needed. A different kind of light is needed. That's when a guiding light is needed. And so if you feel like, wait, with everything we're going to teach and everything we're going to explain, everything we're going to say, but there's an imbalance, there is an imbalance in that the light of the sun is obvious, and the light of the moon, you actually need to get to know the moon to appreciate its advantages over the sun. You need to get to know the moon to understand what is greater about the light of the moon. Meaning each one has its own attribute, but the light of the sun is obvious, and the light of the moon needs to be studied. You need to actually get to know the moon to understand what it brings to the equation. You had a question? Okay. So that being said, from the earliest time in history, from as early as the generation of Noah, women seem to be at a great disadvantage in being respected, in terms that when you read the generation of Noah, you read that the children of the princes would grab the daughters of anyone for themselves. So, seems to be, an imbalance. But what was going on with the Avram and his family, the first Jew? What was going on with him? How were the women in the family of Avram treated from the times of Avram and all the way through the entire Torah? So, first of all, from the time that God even calls to Abraham and says, hey, follow me, the Torah already points out to us and acknowledges who followed God. Avram and Sarah and the Sarai at the time, called Sarai at the time, and the souls that they had made. And Sarai is given credit immediately with Avram, that Abraham would speak to and teach and educate and convert the men from paganism to recognizing one God. And Sarai would convert the women. She would educate and teach. So right away when the first Jew is chosen, we already hear that they're like the first shliach couple. It's not a man, it's a couple. Time goes on, many incidences unfold. When Abraham is about to leave the land of his fathers, Avram and Sarah, God promises that they're going to have wealth and they're going to have children. And ultimately, when they travel and they get to Egypt, Avram openly acknowledges, he tells Sarai, that they're going to do good for me because of you. It's in the Torah, when you read it, you wouldn't see, just like the light of the moon. In the Torah, you could easily misunderstand what that conversation is about. But when you actually, with the guidance of Chassidus, that reveals to us what's actually written in the words of the Torah, Avram, this is one of the times in Torah that he acknowledges your prophecy, your spirituality, your greatness is greater than mine. You have angels who are always with you, so you'll be protected in Egypt. But more than just being protected, all the good that's ever going to happen to me is going to happen through you. And in that part of Torah, in the oral Torah, it's discussed that all the good for a man comes through his wife. Like when a man gets blessed, when a man is successful, that happens because of his wife. Then when he does have a wife, his success takes a huge leap, and you see how his current success is dim compared to how much success he can have when he has a wife. Then, as it says, as we read yesterday, then there's no joy, no success, no blessing there. Then things get really serious for Avram and Sarah, where a bunch of stuff happened, right? We're cutting along. And Avraham, interesting fun fact about Avram and Sarah, by the way. Avraham, his name goes from Avram to Avraham, from the nation, from the father of Aram to the father of Avraham, the father of many nations, Av Hamon Goim. Avraham is not exclusively the father of just the Jewish nation. Avram is the father of many nations. Av Hamon Goim, father of many nations. Who is exclusively the matriarch of the Jewish nation? Sarah. Only Sarah. And that is clearly described in their story in the Torah. And yet, Avraham's entire life and where his focus goes was only because of Sarah, under the influence of Sarah. So it began when Avraham had two children, one from Hagar, one from Sarah. The one from Hagar is Yishmael, the one from Sarah is Yitzchak. And Yishmael begins to taunt Yitzchak and threaten him and endanger him. They were children, and they were playing in the yard. Sarah saw Yishmael using Avram for target practice. Avram was 100 years old at the time. That means that Yishmael was, that begins a little bit earlier in the story, and Yishmael was 13. When the child grew and was weaned, Avram made a great feast on that day. Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Avram, making merry, which are words used in the Torah for idolatry, for immoral behavior, for stealing, and murder. So he was using him for target practice. For bows and arrows, target practice. Okay. Sarah, Yes. Avram had two children. He had one child from Hagar, Yishmael. And Yishmael, in their childhood, when Yitzchak was young and Yishmael was young, Sarah saw Yishmael using Yitzchak for target practice. Because he obviously did not have that good aim, or angels would come and shoot the arrows out of the way, because Yitzchak had some protection. What? It's okay, ask. Isaac, Yitzchak. As a child, his older brother is playing with him, and he's being told, sit by that tree, right? Exactly. So Sarah says to Avram, drive them out. Now, what does she say? And you got to ask your questions out loud, because if you have a question, someone else has it too. That's probably why your mother didn't say, drive her out. Sarah said to Avram, drive them out. But look at what she says here. You know, maybe I should put it on the board. She doesn't say drive him out because he's going to kill him. Can you guys see? Like here, verse number 10. Okay, so it's true that he's a bad influence, but that's not what she says. What does she say? Verse number 10. See that 10 there?
And Sarah said to Abraham, drive out this handmaid and her son, for the son of this handmaid shall not inherit with my son, with Isaac.
So immediately, what did she say? What was this about? About his inheritance. Meaning Sarah is standing up and saying, there's something important that's happening in this family. Our family is going to have a really important mission in the world, tied to the land of Israel, tied to the family that we're going to have. Get this other influence out of the way. He's not going to inherit. He's not going to be part of this. Correct. No, not her son. It's the son of her maid, Hagar. Are you familiar with the story? I can tell you the story. Okay, no problem. Let's review the story. Very, very good. Let's review the story. Okay? Avram does not have children for many, many years. Sarah has a maid, Hagar, who joins their family when they go down to Egypt. Hagar. Huh? A woman, Hagar, who's her maid, Sarah's maid. Hagar joins the family because she wants to be part of this holy family. She leaves her life as a princess in Egypt. She's the daughter of Pharaoh in Egypt. She leaves that to come to join Avram's family. And Sarah sees that she does not have any children, and she says, perhaps you're supposed to have a child, but not through me. And so she gives Hagar to her husband Abraham to marry. For Hagar, this is a tremendous. There were different levels of marriages before the Torah was given. Huh? Correct. And he remarried Hagar also later in his life. There were different levels of marriages in the Torah. One called a pilegesh, one called wife, different, one with a ketubah, one without. And so for Hagar, this is a tremendous, tremendous honor, which unfortunately she abused. Instead of recognizing the honor, when she bore a son, she started to taunt Sarah, but that's a different story for a different day. But here, huh? No. Yes, that is a different story. Way before the people of Israel came to Egypt, maybe 3 or 4 generations before. And there's so many amazing ideas of when they came down to Egypt, for example, Pharaoh gave Sarah the land of Goshen, which is why later the people of Israel inherited it. So Pharaoh and Sarah, their descendants, the Pharaoh who was Pharaoh when Yosef and the nation were in Israel, like there's a lot of history there before they even came to Egypt. Okay, so so Abraham, right, if she says no, he shouldn't inherit the land, in the Torah, right, because we're talking about Torah, how does Torah actually, does it credit women, credit men? Torah lays out that for Avram, this displeased him greatly. See, so it's not like, oh yeah, Avram and Sarah were both recognized the importance of this. They had a difference of opinion here. They had a whole different perspective on what's happening here. And what did God say to Abraham? Read it over here.
And God said, do not be displeased concerning the lad and concerning your handmaid. Whatever Sarah tells you, hearken. Yeah,
listen to her voice.
For in Isaac will be called your seed.
Yitzchak will be your nation, your child. Yishmael. And Yishmael is the father of all the Ishmaelites. Yes. What? Yishmael. Okay, so we're not... Focus. No, everyone focus. Not from Yishmael. Everyone focus, okay? So what happens? Yishmael, Abraham had a correct desire. He said, I want my other son to be, Correct. Yes, they are Abrahamic nations. Correct. As well as, by the way, later we're going to see that from Esav, all of the Roman, the Christian descendants come from there. So here, in the huge disagreement, Torah outright credits Sarah as the one who knows what to do. And in this really important event in history, one of the first big important events for the nation, outright, God says to Avram, right? It's written in the Torah. It's not something we have to look for in the Midrashim. Don't be displeased. Everything that Sarah says, listen to her. Later on, the story continues. Yitzchak grows up, and now their generation. So the next big thing that happens to the Jewish nation, right? One big thing that happened for the Jewish nation, protecting Yitzchak. Oh, another thing, by the way, before Yitzchak even, before the next generation, when Sarah passes away, Avram buys the first plot of land for the Jewish nation in her honor. She's the one who, because of her, the people have a physical connection to the land of Israel before they inherit it. You didn't hear that Avram bought the plot of land in Hebron for Sarah to bury her? Great, then you got to study Torah. It's written in the Torah. Okay, no problem. We're here now to actually straighten out these. So let's just focus, right? Bring it back. The first connection of the land of Israel with the nation of Israel is in the Torah because of Sarah, to buy this plot of land for Sarah. Generation number 1, clearly attributed to Sarah in the words of the Torah, with God speaking up and saying, "This, I'm the one who is arbitrating, and this is the one that makes a difference." Yeah. No, he doesn't receive the land at that time. At that time is all the blessings. God says, you will inherit, you will inherit, you will inherit, you will inherit. Ultimately, they're going to inherit when they come back after Egypt.
So it wasn't?
But before that, when Sarah passes away, Abraham already purchases land for them before they inherit the entire land. That's very interesting. So it was ours to begin with, because you ready for this part of history? When Noach left the ark with his 3 sons, he divided the land among them. And Israel and Jerusalem fell into the plot of Shem, who would be the father of Avram, right? The father of 10 generations later would be Avram. So, and then nations came and fought with them. So you are absolutely correct that the first people that it actually belonged to were the family of Avram. That's discussed, but not for right now. So generation, yes, 10 generations comes up often, but is it okay if we kind of focus? Okay, fine. So now the second generation. Yitzchak grows up and he has 2 children, Yaakov and Esav. Again, Yitzchak has this loyalty to Esav because he sees his potential. He sees that spiritually he can become a really great man. And Yitzchak, when he gets older, he wants to pass on the inheritance. And who does he want to pass it on to? He summons his elder son, Esav. And he says to him, "My son, come here." Oh, and by the way, I just want, right, so all this is going to discuss that he tells Esav to get some food, to hunt some food from, because he wants to give him blessings. But right away, what does God testify here? You know what? Remind me to come back to at the end of what God testifies. Okay? Who does Esav want to give the blessings to? Sorry, Yitzchak, second patriarch. Who does he want to give the blessings to? To Esav. What happens? Who pops up here in verse number 5? In the Torah, written down, given credit, brought in, her story. Who? Rivka. Rivka had been listening while Yitzchak was speaking with Esav. And when Esav left, Rivka said to her son Yaakov, "I heard your father speaking to your brother Esav, saying that, 'Feed me and I'll give you these blessings.' So now, my son Yaakov, listen to me regarding what I command you. Go bring me goats from my flock, prepare them for your father, and I want you to get these blessings." Yes. Yaakov said to his mother, "But my brother Esav is a hairy man. I'm a smooth-skinned man. It's not going to work." Right? So he didn't say, "No, this isn't right." He said, "I'm afraid." He's cooperating, but he doesn't know how to carry it out. And the Torah testifies to her wisdom. "Perhaps my father will touch me and he'll regard me as an imposter, and I'll bring a curse upon myself, not a blessing." His mother said to him, "Don't worry about the curse. First of all, there won't be a curse, but if there will be a curse, it'll be upon me. Don't worry. Just heed my words and go and bring them to me." So he went, he brought the goats, he prepared them. Rivka put the clothing on him. She handed the food to Yaakov. He came to his father, and this whole story takes place, this conversation between them, that Yaakov says, Who are you? And he says, "It is I, Esav, your son." right? If you want to know like different parts of that, we can look at them a little bit later, because this is right now about Rivka, not about Yitzchak and Yaakov. And he successfully gets the blessings. And here we also see that Yaakov drew close to his father Yitzchak, who touched him and said, the voice is Yaakov, but the hands are the hands of Esav. At this point, do we have a little hint of whether Yitzchak knows what's going on or not? He's a dad. Like skin versus voice. Like something you could put on you versus what you're saying, right? We forget when we read these stories, these were the most brilliant people who ever lived. So if he says at this point, the voice is Yaakov, but the hands are the hands of Esav, what is he telling his son Yaakov?
He knows.
I see what, like, nah, you know? Okay. So, and yet he understands, he hops onto the bandwagon. He understands what's going on. We'll continue. Give it a second. There's more evidence, okay? So he gives him the blessing. He also keeps saying, like, you smell like Gan Eden, like the Garden of Eden. You know, you're speaking about God. So he recognizes what's going on, gives him the blessings, and then Esav comes in. He also prepared delicacies, and he says, who are you? He says, I'm the firstborn Esav. And Yitzchak shuddered in bewilderment, which in Hebrew is charadah gdola, which means a great intense feeling. I don't know why they translate it as bewilderment.
It's like a shock.
Shock, or a great, like a foreboding. Why a foreboding? Because he thought he did the wrong thing? No, Rashi tells us, shuddered, that he saw purgatory open beneath Esav. He sensed the spiritual as well as the physical, and he knew exactly who it was that was there. And what happens? He tells him, then who was it and where is he who trapped game and brought it to me, and I partook of it before your arrival, and I blessed him? He will indeed be blessed. Meaning, so that you will not say, if Yaakov had not deceived his father, he would not have received his blessing. Yitzchak now consciously speaks and says, he's the one who is blessed. How did Yaakov receive the blessing? How did the people of Israel? Who does the Torah attribute all that credit to? To Rivka and her behaviors, outright. These are all adult women so far, yes? Oh, in case you're wondering if this was not like in line with God, or like where do we have that evidence, look at the beginning here where his eyes were blind. You see this? He grew older and his eyesight became dim. So right away, Rashi tells us that there were several explanations why his eyes were dim, but the last one being his eyesight became dim in order to enable Yaakov to receive the blessings. So right away from the beginning of the story, this is something that God is causing to happen, but who brought it out? Who actually made it happen, and who does Torah give the credit to? Outright, in public, in the open, when nobody respects or honors women and they don't have voices or names at all. Throughout the Torah, when it comes to the most important parts, openly in the Torah, it's attributed to the women, even when it takes great wisdom and thinking 3 steps ahead or 5 steps ahead. Okay. Now, these are individual women so far. And up until now, we were talking about adult women. It's interesting that with Rivka, before she even became an adult, when there's the story of how Rivka is brought to Yitzchak, the Torah attributes tremendous wisdom to her, that she should not be taken to marriage without asking her consent, and that no woman should be married without her consent. Says that in the Torah. That we learned that from the story of Rivka when she was a child. And it also explains to us how holy she was even at the age of 3. So it goes into that at the time of when she's a young child. But look at this fascinating story of, like, were women taken seriously? So we see that the leaders were taken seriously. We see that Sarah and Rivka, later on Rachel and Leah, we've got plenty of stories about them being taken seriously, where in the verses, right, Leah does something, she goes out, and then God says, because she did this, I'll do that. Or God listened to Leah, God heard Leah, God responded, right? So God is constantly in an open conversation with these women, like openly in the Torah. And here, now when it comes to another great leader that needs coming onto the scene, Moshe, his entire life, his survival, and his success goes on to be attributed to women openly in the Torah again. This one is passed down in the oral Torah, but let's take a look at it. And this also gives us a ton of insight into the day-to-day life of women. Were they taken seriously? Were their opinions considered? Were they part of, like, were they studying with everyone else? Were they part of the conversation? So fast forward a whole bunch of years. Now they are in Egypt. There are these terrible decrees against the people of Israel. And a Levite man goes out and marries Yocheved, Levi's daughter. What is this story? When Paro makes a decree that all of the baby boys should be thrown into the river and drowned, the men separated from their wives. Here's the backstory. A man married Levi's daughter. He had been previously married to her, but had been separated from her due to Paro's decree that all newborn babies be drowned. And he now married her again. This is the meaning of that. He went, he followed, he went after the advice. Oh, he went. What does it mean he went? He followed the advice of his daughter, who said to him, your decree is worse than Paro's, whereas Paro's decree only affects the males. You have effectively decreed against the females as well. He therefore took her back and married her a second time. And then in the rest of the Talmud it says, and all the men went and married their wives again. So Paro has this crazy decree that is going to end the Jewish nation because all the men separated from their wives. Who is single-handedly responsible at this point of history of continuing the Jewish nation? Not just a woman, but how old was she before Moshe was born?
10.
A little younger, a little older.
7.
A little younger.
6.
Exactly, she was 6.
Oh my gosh.
Okay? A young woman who's 6 years old goes to her father, who's the leader. He's Amram, he's one of the leaders, one of the sages. She goes to her father, one of the leaders of the generation, and she says, Dad, your decree, how did you separate from mom? Your decree is worse than Pharaoh's. What should a father respond to a 6-year-old daughter? Sweetie, that's so nice. Go do your coloring, right? Or like, go play outside.
Play in the reeds.
Go play in the reeds. Go weave a basket, right? It does not make sense. A 6-year-old girl. What does he do? He actually listens to what she has to say, brings it up to the Jewish court, gets remarried. And by the way, there are more details in the Torah where he responds, in the oral Torah, in the Gemara, the Talmud, where this is brought up, where even if he remarries his wife, how's that going to affect the other people? And so Miriam gave him the advice, just like you made a wedding canopy the first time, do that in public. Build a big stage, make a wedding canopy, take mom back, remarry her, and then everyone will see and follow. And that is exactly what happens. So who does the Torah literally attribute the entire Jewish nation to?
A child.
Not just a child, a girl. Okay. Oh, here's the rest of the story. Yocheved and Miriam also had more parts of the story where they saved Jewish babies by not killing them, even though Paro invited them to, invited. Would you want to join my party of killing the Jewish babies? Right? I feel like I just watched it. Thank you. That was wonderful. We just did. That was great.
No, the whole clip.
Okay.
I don't know the whole
But just moving right along, right? Because that's one child. What about the rest of the Jewish women? The Torah attributes all the children who were born in Egypt to the wisdom and the fortitude and the sacrifice of specifically the Jewish women. Later on, when we learn about the Bet HaMikdash, verse number 8 of Shemot chapter 38.
How are you jumping around?
Huh?
How are you jumping around?
Oh,
Like, you have all the tabs open?
No, I actually took a bunch of sources and put them into a doc. We can talk about that later.
Really?
Okay.
Like,
So
keep going.
he made the washstand of copper and its basin of copper from the mirrors of the women who had set up the legions, who congregated at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Literally in the words of the Torah, right, spelled out in the verses. The wash basin of the women, they were the ones who set up the legions. They were the ones who actually created this nation, who congregated the tent of meeting. They were the ones who came here to the tent of meeting in order to give their prized possession these mirrors. And what's the little backstory here? Moshe didn't know if he should accept it or not. Because mirrors, how much more materialistic can you get than a mirror? Oh, I'm looking at myself, like, can you see what I look like? These mirrors, follow the story, and you'll see, right? Like, how much more materialistic can you be? And yet, what does the Holy One tell Moshe? Accept them. Not just accept them, but these mirrors of these women are more precious to me than anything, because through them, the women set up legions. Through the children they gave birth to in Egypt. What is the backstory? So what was? So not Moshe said it. Right? It is the story that we. Yeah, Moshe did tell us, and then it became part of the oral Torah. It's right here in the Rashi. Correct. When their husbands were wearied from back-breaking labor, the women, and as if they didn't have back-breaking labor, they were also completely torn up from back-breaking labor. And yet, instead of going home and going to rest for a few hours, they would go to the fields all around the work sites where their husbands would just drop into the fields exhausted. And they would bring them food and drink, and then the women would take the mirror and they would each see herself with her husband in the mirror, and she would seduce him with words saying, I'm more beautiful than you. And in this way,
what?
yeah, and in this way, we have an amazing class on that. Correct, but do you know enough at this point to say, wow, I wonder what that means. I wonder why that worked. I wonder why these are the words that they used and why Rashi brings these words.
Yes,
right?
But at the same time,
not to be like, that doesn't work, but like, what there do I not
why
know
does
yet?
that work?
So we actually have an incredible class with Rivka Kaplan of Tzfat that we could make available to you somehow or another. The recording of, where she explains why these words were necessary, why these words were the perfect words to bring out the masculinity of their husbands.
Interesting.
I know. And in this way, they arouse their husband's desire and be intimate with them, conceiving and giving birth there, as it says, under the apple tree I aroused you. So what do we have right here in the Torah? Right, the credit of the Jewish nation even existing, written in the open, black and white for everyone to see. And then these are a lot of credit given to women. And then when God actually tells Moshe, what kind of conversation should you have with the women proactively? We're about to experience the greatest conversation between God and the people of Israel. How should you transmit my words to the people of Israel? Now we're talking about, right, up until now, we pointed out many places in Torah where literally if you open up, if you want to know, like, does Torah include women in the conversation? Does it actually give them credit? Does it show them in the story? It doesn't just show them in the story. Every important story in the Torah is directly attributed, black and white, ink on parchment, to a woman. Hold on.
Very important story.
Yes,
But
of creating the nation, every single generation of creating the nation. And the connection between the land of Israel and us. Now,
I wanna
good.
see if I can find that.
There's a chitas. You can go source by source by source and open up every single one of them. I encourage you to do it. I encourage everyone to do it. And also, we're going to get some more chambashim here, like
Can we get
12 or
articles so I
13.
can actually read it?
Yeah, absolutely. Hebrew English is going to come, and that's amazing. I love that. I wish every single one of you will do that, by the way, because there's nothing like reading it yourself. It's just so important. It's your Torah. Like, open it up and read it before just believing what people tell you, you know? Then, so God spoke to the people once. He spoke to Adam and Chava. He spoke to Adam then spoke to Chava. The next time God is going to speak to all of humanity who's on earth is by the giving of the Torah. And now God's like, okay, attempt number 2, where I'm going to send instructions to the world. There's a very specific formula, a very specific way that I want my words to come into the world this time. This is too important for anything to get distorted along the way. What does he say? God, the Eternal called to Moshe from the mountain, saying, called, the eternal one, called.
What a way to describe God.
to Moshe, and he said, Ko tomar, this is how you should say, lebet Yisrael, v'tagid livnei Yisrael. This is exactly as such you shall say to the house of Jacob and tell the sons of Israel. For anyone who studies Torah, an important thing to know is that there's not a single extra word in the Torah. Torah is not a book of poetry. It's precise. There's a reason why, for example, the story of Eliezer is told twice, taking up so many verses of Torah. And then sometimes when it comes to the biggest mitzvah of like putting on tefillin, it doesn't even explain it. It's just one word, one sentence. Every word of Torah is precise. Torah means hora'ah, it means lesson. So if every word is precise, can you find no shorter way of saying this? So shall you say to the house of Jacob and tell to the sons of Israel?
Copy, paste to the people.
Tell the people of Israel, right? Moshe, right? Tell the people of Israel. Say exactly these words to the people of Israel, but it actually says 2 things here, the house of Jacob and the people of Israel. Interesting fun fact about, just something I love about this place being called Beis Hana, the house of Hana. House, the house of, house refers to women. Home refers to women. And Rashi tells us that. So first of all, okay, house of Yaakov, you read these words? This is Rashi. These are the women. Say it to them in gentle language or in general language. And tell to the sons of Israel, the sons, right? These are the guys. For them, it won't do to just tell in a gentle language. They need something a little bit different. They need to be taught the punishments and the details of the laws, things that are as harsh as wormwood. I don't know what that means. I haven't studied enough to understand that part of the sentence. But, and then the most important thing is, so shall you say means with this language and in this order. When the most important transmission from heaven down to earth is about to happen, what is the instruction? Who should you talk to? Not only like the women stay home and cook, and like, okay, the men will tell the women. Not only is that not the instruction, but the instruction is, actually, I need you to gather the women first. So the women need to be taught first. They're the ones who need to hear it first. And then teach the men. Additionally, 100%, thanks for pointing that out. Why? Not because we're greater and higher, like not blowing steam at anybody, right? This is like, there's a task. Each one has a mission. For the mission of actually taking care of the most important thing in the world, which is the people, the life, you need to be the ones who understand the instructions and receive them first without any distortions. Yes. No, it doesn't. I just said that. No, guys, listen carefully. Listen carefully. Yes. From? Good. So this is really important. Guys who were here at the beginning of the class, do you mind if I repeat? It's good to hear things again, the introduction, that maybe not everyone may have heard. In this class, we're addressing one of the biggest questions that came up in yesterday's teachings, which is the Torah addressing women. Like, why does the Torah not speak about women? So we're actually debunking that myth. Thank you so much, debunking that myth. But what I also said at the beginning is that if you have a feeling that things are uneven in the world, that life is harder for women, conditions are harsher for women, that women are underappreciated, that women are weaker in many ways, at a disadvantage in many ways, then you're not dreaming. It's real. And one of the contexts to understand it is that men are compared to the sun, or masculinity is compared to the light of the sun, femininity and women are compared to the light of the moon. The Jewish people as well are compared to the moon, and God is compared to the sun being giver, moon being receiver. And today, before Mashiach comes, after the fourth day of creation and before Mashiach comes, the job of the moon is to light up the darkness. And at the same time, the beauty of the moon, what the moon gives, is not as obvious as the light that the sun gives.
Yeah, I know that analogy.
Yeah. So it is important to recognize that what's happening right now in exile is that everything is turned upside down. Like at the time of Galut, in times of darkness, things are upside down. Things that should be valued are not valued. You're not dreaming. And there's a specific purpose for it, and we can continue discussing that purpose. But first I wanted to lay down a foundation of how the Torah is actually different. How in Torah, where things are truth, generally it's actually clear. So you're not dreaming, and there's a lot to talk about why it is that way. Like, for example, the Jewish nation is hated. Would you say, oh, that's because we're, less important? Like, no. Like, we know who we are, and yet the world doesn't. There's a very topsy-turvy priority values in the world today. A few more examples. Torah itself, okay, when they're about to enter the land of Israel, because again, so now we're speaking about the women as a nation, how the Torah talks about them. When they're about to enter the land of Israel, take a look at this. Moshe and Elazar the Kohen, they count the people of Israel. Among these, all the people that they counted, all the numbers of people they counted before they entered the land of Israel, there was no man who had been in the tally of Moshe and Aaron when they counted the Israelites in the Sinai desert. Every single man who had come out of Egypt had died, who was between the ages of 20 and 60 at the time of the giving of the Torah, had died. But look at what Rashi tells us outright. Why does the Torah say, Uvaela lo haya ish, there weren't men? Among these, there were no man, but the decree resulting from the sin of the spies was not decreed upon the women. Why? Because they held the land dear. The men said, let us appoint a leader and turn to Egypt, but the women said, give us an estate. Therefore, the passage about the doors of Tzelafchad is placed below, which we're going to look at here too. But the Torah testifies that as a collective, the women were the ones who were responsible for the Jewish people receiving the land, and the men really slacked in that direction. By the way, all of this, again, I'm just addressing this one more time because it came up again, the language greater than. No one's saying women are greater than men. Each of us have a very specific task, but it is important for us to understand what our strength is, because just like these women, it was due to them, their fierceness, their behaviors, first of all, that there were people of Israel, right, that they created more kids, and second of all, that they entered the land of Israel because of their loyalty. We need to understand that and maybe this won't seem fair, but in your own household, the environment of your house is going to be dependent on you. So there are going to be things that your husband is able to bring home. For example, I love when the dad or the husband gives reminders like it's Rosh Chodesh today, or reminders that like, oh, it's the day before Purim, so I'm going to give these 3 coins to tzedakah for everyone in the family. Like, I love that they lead the home, and at the same time, how the environment is going to be is going to depend on how you want it to be. There's a story of 2 people at the same time, 2 leaders, also written in the Torah, Korach and a guy named On ben Peles. Korach went against Moshe and ended up being swallowed by the earth. On ben Peles went against Moshe, and then we don't see him being swallowed by the earth. Why? Korach's wife kept pushing him to rebel against Moshe, saying, you deserve more, you deserve more. And it ultimately led to his death. That's the environment in their home that she created. On ben Peles, in the exact same chapter of the Torah, he wasn't found among those who were punished because his wife kept trying to convince him out of it, until ultimately, when the day came to have this big showdown, her plot, she had an elaborate, very interesting plot, again, that we can go into a different time, which kept her husband home, and he then went on to live a great many years. He was not involved, he wasn't punished with the people of Korach. So in our homes, and as we learn from every single leader of the generation, it is up to us. So another connection with because we saw when Miriam was a little child, she was taken seriously. What about other women? When women had questions, did they just stay home or bring it to their husbands? How were women's questions perceived in the desert? The daughters of Tzelafchad, son of, their names were Machla, Noah, Chogla, Milka, and Tirzah. How many names of people in general do you see in the Torah? About stories about them in the Torah? Not that many. There's just literally out of thousands, millions of people, you have hundreds of names in Torah, in general. These women's names, Machla, Noah, Chogla, Milka, and Tirzah, were brought up 3 times in Torah. So most of the millions of people who lived at that time, their name doesn't go in at all. These women, 3 times. What did they go into the Torah for? They stood before Moshe, Elazar the Kohen, and before the princes, before the entire community at the entrance of the Oel Moed, of the Ark, of the tent of meeting, of the Mishkan, and they brought up a case. And this is written in the Torah, black and white, right? Meaning God testifies to this for the rest of our whole history. Our father died in the desert. He was not part of the community that was Korach's community. He had no sons. Why should our father's name be eliminated from his family because he had no sons? Give us an estate along with our father's brothers in the land of Israel. So what happens? Does Moshe say, go home, knit a sweater, weave a basket, right? Go cook a meal. Go marry a husband and you'll have the land of your husband. Is that what he says? No.
They didn't get married for this.
What it says over here is Moshe brought their case before God. And the next words after that is, and God spoke to Moshe saying that the daughters are correct, meaning there isn't even any words in the Torah that says, wow, how unusual, how amazing. If you want to know how Torah treated women, this is how. They had an issue, they brought it to the court. The leader, what did he do with this issue? Brought it to God Almighty himself. That was all in a day's work among the people of Israel. And then all in a day's work, God responds. And what does he say? Tzelafchad's daughters speak correctly. Give, yes, you must give them an estate of land inheritance along with their father's brothers. You must transfer their father's inheritance to them. And why does it say give and give? Because they end up getting a double portion, their father and grandfather's land that needs to be divided. But look at this. Rashi tells us, what is this word, Cain? Yaus, correct. God is saying they are correct. thus is this passage written before me on high. God says, I'm consulting with my Torah. They're correct. This is what the law is. Very interesting wording.
So why was it just for those ones?
This tells us that their eyes perceived that which Moshe's eyes did not. And guys, Rashi is a sage, a male sage. And what does he write? With unabashedly. Hey, you don't want to miss this part.
I'm explaining something. She asked a question.
Oh, so ask it out loud.
I did.
She tried.
She attempted.
Guys, a little more voice. I didn't hear anything. Go. What was the question? Excellent. Listen, it comes up in the next verse. I think that the question asked is why do only they get the... Is that what your question is? Why do they only get the land? So listen carefully. That's not true that only they get the land. It's going to come up in the next verse. Yes. It's true, but that's literally what I'm trying to show you. It's literally just there in black and white. Read your own Torah. I read this every single day. This is what it is. I'm so confused. So strange. Why would you not read from beginning to end? Wait, is it true that I don't know who your teachers or principals are, and I don't know why they're prioritizing which stories they want to... But also, my other question that I want to ask you is, could it be that this too, okay? Could it be that there are details that you maybe, and I'm telling you, like, this is very, very normal that this happens, that there are details that you don't pay attention to until the questions come up, meaning that your teachers may have taught these stories, but because it's so natural and so normal, like, of course Sarah made sure that Yishmael was sent away. Of course Avram bought the first plot of land for Sarah to be buried. Of course Rivka was asked before, right? Could it be that when you grew older and you stopped learning inside, like you were done reading, maybe you don't remember all the things that you learned in your childhood? Like, is that possible? No. I know for me that's definitely true, that I don't remember everything I was taught. No, not the biggest part. Okay, yesterday, wait, this is a good question. Listen, this is a good question. What we're talking about is, where do the women come as the biggest part? They come as the biggest part specifically when it comes to I don't know if you're, like yesterday, we were discussing that the most important thing in this entire world are the people. Among the people, because we're Jews, we're going to say the most important part for us to talk about is the Jewish nation. And our connection with God, our connection with life, being alive, and our connection with the land. When it comes to specifically the people, specifically the continuity of the people, the existence of the people, for life being brought to this world, the Torah doesn't hide any of that. Like, it just keeps attributing it to the women. And by the way, you're right that this class shouldn't even happen. You're right that this is stuff you should be learning all along. Like, it should be so natural. It should be so clear. You're absolutely right. Like, I agree. There's no reason why a teacher has to collect, the sources and bring them. And at the same time, let's be not, at least at this age, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, at least let's like brush up on our Torah and actually know what's written in there. Correct. When it talks about listing the names, you don't see the names of the women. When it talks about the accomplishments, it brings up the women. Yes, and this is one of the interesting things actually says in the Rashi. Why do the tribes go patriarchally based on the names of the men, the names of the fathers? The nations of the world would taunt. Okay, so by the way, let's bring up right here. Oh man, shame isn't here, but you know how the most important thing in Judaism, meaning who is a Jew, goes by the woman, right? But which tribe do you go to? Who does that go by? The man. Goes by the man, right? And that is a very interesting, like, why does it go by the man? So Rashi, in the place where it says all the names of the guys in the Torah, it says, let's say, Machli from the Ha-Machli family. Like, it says the Ha-Da-Da-Da-E family. Like a Hey and a Yud at the beginning and the end. God puts his name there. Why does he do that? And why? Because the nations of the world... Huh? That's an excellent question. It's interesting. I was actually wondering that. just the other day. But I know that when it comes to inheriting the land, there's places where gerim were given. But what I wanted to, wait. This is right. Just get to the end of this thought. The nations of the world would taunt the people of Israel, and they would say, "You just came out of Egypt." If they enslaved your bodies, you think they didn't. If they ruled over your bodies, you think they didn't rule over your wives. And so God comes to testify in the Torah. He puts the men's names to testify that no Egyptian ever overtook a woman sexually. There was one story that was written openly in the Torah, which again tells us that aside for this one story, and I know, it makes no sense. No, okay, sorry. Okay, the reason why God put, that was a little bit too much information, forgive me, but the reason why God puts the hey at the beginning and the yud at the end is to testify, I am God, I am putting their names in, I'm putting my signature around their name, to tell you that their fathers are their fathers. Meaning their mothers being their mothers is obvious. You can literally see them birth the baby. The father being the father, the Torah has to come and actually testify that, because that would not be obvious. That would not be clear. That is a link that anyone can say. Anyone could come in the middle of the night. Anyone could come day or night and rape your wives. It's just one important thing to know.
You see a tribe walking.
Okay, let's put the question down.
What is
Okay. So just let me answer Devorah's question before we move on, because Devorah, you did ask that, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Yes, you must give them inheritance in their father's land. And, one second, this is Bamidbar chapter 27. Let's just read the rest of it now. Okay, it's so funny. I was thinking if I should copy it over and then I didn't, but right after that, yeah, if you want to. No. God continues and actually clarifies the law that any man that doesn't have sons, it goes to the daughters, meaning that it doesn't just refer to the women, to them, to these 5 women, but it refers to all women. That is the law. So why didn't all women come and ask?
Yeah, and
Ask for land?
yeah. Right, and I have the answer.
Okay.
Basically,
Moshe had divided the land, right?
Yeah,
He had just
but he
divided
was-
the
but he
land
was-
and okay, but also speak to children. He's saying if a man dies and has no son, you shall transfer inheritance to his daughter, meaning it doesn't only apply to these girls, these women, it applies to all women. Yes, they brought this law about, and also you could ask the question of why did Moshe not just say it without them bringing it? God actually wanted them to have the credit. Why were they specifically, these 5 women, why were they the ones who brought it out? They were from a tribe of Menashe who did, throughout the Torah we see, had a special connection with the land. Children of Yosef who loved the land so much, wanted to be buried there. Menashe throughout the different stories of the Torah also fought for the land. You have a question? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Twins and sometimes triplets. And your question will be like, why don't we know about them? That's a very, very good question. So, yeah. So, So aside from them not being mentioned, I also just want to mention that there were millions and millions and millions of men who were also not mentioned. It is important to know that Torah, it's literally called Torah from Lishon Hora'ah, which means lesson. Guys, do you know who the most important character in Torah is? I need everyone to listen to this. Does anyone know who the most important character in the entire Torah is? Anyone else? God, Noah, Moshe, Chava, the Israelites, any other ideas? Let me give you a hint, okay? It says, Maaseh Avot Siman Labanim, the actions of our fathers, meaning anything that was written in the Torah was a sign to their children. Anyone know what that means? A sign?
Yeah, but
What's a sign? What's like, when you have a sign that says, exactly. A sign is not the thing itself. A sign is an indicator. Okay, so there's the thing. There's like the gym, and then there's the sign which says like gym over there. So what's the important part? The sign or the gym? The gym, okay? Everything in the Torah is a sign for what? For us. So who's the most important part of the Torah? Us. Literally, you are. Anything that happened in the Torah. No, listen, guys, this is really important. If you think, oh, he did that, correct. It's not proof. Listen. If you look at the Torah and you're like, oh, you know, Tzipporah did this, that, or the other, or Rachel did this, that, or the other, or Moshe did this, that, or the other. If you look at that, what's the thing you should be reading is, what does this teach me? Why? Because they were not the ones who were going to carry out the mission of the world. They weren't the ones who were going to actually implement it. They're the sign. They're the ones who show us how to implement it. So it is true that there are millions and millions of people who are not mentioned in the Torah because the only stories and people who are mentioned in the Torah are ones that are assigned to us that we need to know something about. So if you want to know, so why is Machli and Mushi written in the Torah, actual names of guys in the Torah, but then there are all these women who are not written, that's a great place to start, being like, what do I learn from this name and this name? Why do I need that? Exactly. Meaning important for us to learn something from? That's an excellent question. What do we need to know from Reuven? What do we need to know from Shimon? What do we need to know from Levi? Yehuda, Yisachar, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali? And what do we need to know from Dinah? And what do we need to know from Dinah? Okay. Anyway, so that is quite a bit for today. Bring your questions back for tomorrow if you have any questions about today's class.